Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Successful Marketing Summit, where we have gathered some of the best and brightest minds today when it comes to marketing. My name is Mats David Awesome Goldberg, and I'm delighted to be speaking to Emelie Fa. Emelie, yes, you're a digital strategist and one of the founders of Swedish Nomads. It's one of the biggest networks of digital nomads in Sweden. And common discussions within this network refers to digitalization of the labor market, working from a distance, and job tech throughout like interviews, inspiration, and tips like that. And central to this community is a Facebook group that gathers people with interest in teleworking or working from a distance and the gig economy in Sweden. Emelie, you will talk more about the power of running your own Facebook group from a marketing perspective, but also how communities in different ways can affect the development of the society in a positive direction. Correct?
That is correct.
Well, thank you and welcome to this summit.
Thank you. It's super exciting to be part of a virtual summit because, of course, like you were saying, I am a digital nomad myself. I'm really very pro remote work. So, of course, I'm also very pro remote conferences and virtual conferences in different ways.
Nice. So have you worked in this kind of setting before with a virtual summit or like a summit of any kind?
I have actually. I was part last year of a virtual summit, which was, well, it was sent from Germany, but we had participants from all over the world. And that's very much focused, I guess, on female empowerment and female entrepreneurship. So, but that was also really fun to be a part of. So I'm excited to be part of this initiative because I'm certain, a lot of people talk about today that maybe we shouldn't be traveling the world just to go to a conference. So the possibility of just sitting at home in your kitchen, as I'm doing right now, and taking part of content in this way, I find really exciting. So it's great.
There's a lot of positive things by hosting and participating and speaking at a conference like this instead of going somewhere. I mean, just the expenses for housing, accommodation, food, the travels and everything.
Definitely. And also, of course, the climate impact that many people are talking about today. So, I mean, I still really, really enjoy meeting people in an offline setting as well. But I do think that just for conferences and different events and things, doing it virtually can sometimes be just as beneficial as actually meeting people in person as well.
Yeah. And that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit. I mean, some people, they claim that, oh, but meeting face to face with someone is so much better. But what are your views upon that statement? I mean, would you rather meet someone face to face, or could the exchange of knowledge and frugality of what you're working with work just as fine doing it over the net like this?
I definitely think that doing things remotely, meeting people remotely and collaborating with people remotely can work just as well as meeting people face to face. And of course, I mean, me, myself, I have been working remotely for the past 5 years. I was based out of Tokyo for 1.5 years and then out of London. I'm back in Stockholm right now, but still, I mean, I work as a consultant and I have several different clients and they're spread out across Sweden mostly, but also across Europe and Asia. Yeah. And, I do appreciate meeting with them at times because I do think that there's a power in actually having face-to-face meetings. But to a certain degree, I think that we can meet once and then we can actually do work and have follow-up meetings and everything over Skype or Zoom or phone or whatever it might be. So I think that when it comes to working, many times you become more productive when you do it remotely because it becomes more like to the point when you actually speak with each other like this. And also you actually get time to just sit down and really focus on what you're working with. So of course, I think that a big part of what the future of work will be all about will be remote work. So again, of course, I also think that remote conferences or virtual conferences are a cool way of looking at knowledge exchange, but over the internet as opposed to meeting in person.
So how do you see then that this digitalization will affect the way that we work in the future? What will change from what we have today to the future?
You know, a lot of people are already working this way, I think, like the remote way. And it's due to the fact that so many jobs today have become totally digitalized. So me, for instance, working in communications, I can do almost all my work just as long as I have a laptop and a stable Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is seeing that it doesn't just affect communication jobs or tech jobs and programmers and so on, but we also see today through different online services that we have doctors working over the phone, and we have real estate agents that only work remotely. We have people working in finance working remotely, and we have coaches working remotely. So you're really seeing that a lot of things in society are becoming more accessible just through the use of digital technology. And I think that looking at more and more jobs becoming this way, and looking at all the more digital tools that we're getting as well for project leading and project management. And
Yeah.
I mean, even in manufacturing, a lot of things can be done today remotely because robots are actually performing the job and they're being controlled from a control center somewhere. So I do think that, I mean, like I was saying before, there is true power in meeting in person, but I am also certain that going forward now and looking at the labor market, that we will see more flexible and remote working becoming all the more common.
Yeah.
And at the same time, yeah, I think that can also open up in a certain way for us to be able to collaborate more over country borders and even continent borders. Because if work is not connected to a certain place, it's more about the skill sets you have. I think that we can have an even bigger global labor market where we can work together in projects in a whole different way. And I think that the end results of different projects and tasks that we might take on will be much better when we're able to take in all those perspectives. And that's all due to the digitalization of the job or labor market, basically.
Wow. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, just the thing that you said, that there are so many different locations now that that's not really common, or in most people's minds, that those are the people actually working from a remote location. As you said, like real estate agents, doctors. Those are common jobs that usually fit into an institution or a location where you go and meet them and so forth. So I think we have to change our mindsets when it comes to who works where and from where. So very interesting. But then I'd like to then just smoothly try to transition into the field of what I would like to speak to you about this Facebook groups and building communities. As you said, you started the Swedish Digital Nomads group. Could you explain how that happened? How come the community ended up on Facebook? How come you ended up being a digital nomad? Just trying to trace back a little bit. Yeah. So many questions, but we'll go back to the beginning.
Trying to package that into one answer.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, basically, like I was saying, I had already been working remotely for 3 years when the idea of Swedish digital nomads actually arose. And it was me together with 2 other Swedish digital nomads whose names are Christopher Persson and Jasmin Åkermark. Mm-hmm. And the 3 of us, we had been working remotely for a while, and we were very digital, so we were very active online. All of us had written articles about digital nomads and how the workplace was changing and so on. And actually, it was Christopher who reached out to me on LinkedIn 2.5 years ago and said that, you know, I have been a digital nomad now for a year, and I think that there are so many global communities for digital nomads, but at the same time we see so many cases when, if you're Swedish and you're working remotely, especially from a different country, it's really difficult to find that sense of community and to get answers to questions like taxes or insurances, or how to actually find different gigs or working opportunities. So he thought that there was something missing in the digital nomad space when it came to Sweden, and we started talking with each other, and I came to agree with him because I had only really heard about the concept of digital nomads more from an international perspective. I had read about it in a lot of international magazines like Wired and TechCrunch and so on, but I hadn't really seen so much mention of it in Sweden. Yeah. And at the same time, when you're looking at different government agencies, when you're trying to get answers to, well, how to do your taxes and so on, depending on where you're living, it was, and it still is, of course, not crystal clear how everything works.
Yeah.
So the two of us, and together with Jasmine as well, who I had just come to know in London, and who herself has really been the typical digital nomad you might imagine, where she's been living all over the world and for a few weeks at a time, spending time in South America and Asia and all over Europe. So we really came together, the three of us, and we decided that, well, it would be really cool to try and just start a group and see if we can find other like-minded people in Sweden, and maybe we can become the go-to platform for people to actually discuss these things. So when we started off, I mean, the Facebook group was the first thing we did, along with a website that we published, but it wasn't a company or anything. It was just the sense that the three of us really felt that we were missing a community for people that, well, shared these issues, but also wanted to be inspired, share stories, and just maybe collaborate in different ways. So we decided to start this group, and it opened in January 2017. So it's a little over 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's grown. I'm not saying it's like a gigantic group, because it's not. We're just over 2,000 members in it today, but the people that are in this group are really active, and they are also really engaged when it comes to these questions. And I do think that we are having really meaningful conversations because of it. And also because we do have this Facebook group, and it is actually the biggest network for digital nomads in Sweden, or actually in the Nordics as well.
Yeah.
We have become kind of like the go-to place for other organizations or companies or even government agencies that have questions related to remote work. So having this community has opened up the possibility for us to actually speak directly with the tax authorities or with the public employment office, and we've been speaking with the different trade unions and so on, because we have somehow become the voice of the community, because we know, or well, we don't know exactly, but we have a sense of what these people are looking for in the workplace of tomorrow. And by creating this community where people feel safe to actually share and to ask questions and to share advice with each other, I think that it's become quite a powerful unit, actually. And answering why we chose Facebook as the platform to do this, it's of course because Facebook is today the largest social media platform out there. It's somewhere where, well, almost all Swedish people that are active on the internet are actually on Facebook and have an account there. So we felt that Facebook would be the platform where it would be easy for people to actually access and to become active in this. And then, of course, we still have other channels like the website, we have a newsletter, we have a podcast, a vlog, and we are on Instagram and so on as well. But Facebook are really, really great when it comes to actually creating communities. And I think that looking at different social media platforms out there today, they are really superior when it comes to providing the best possible community experience. And that's why, well, we've decided to stay on Facebook as opposed to trying to build something outside of the platform, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting, because I spoke to one of the other speakers regarding LinkedIn, and he mentioned the specifics that the group, like the group function. Thank you. The group function of that of LinkedIn is not as good as the one on Facebook. So that was his own mentions as well.
And
My
I
experience.
agree. Yeah, and I actually know that LinkedIn, they are looking into the group experience. They went out, I think it was in a blog post this fall, saying that they were really looking to enhance the group experience on LinkedIn as well. But to be honest, it's not as prioritized by that platform. It's not as easily built in. I don't think the user experience is there the same way as it is on Facebook. So even when it comes to more professional settings and professional groups, Facebook groups are winning, if you can say winning, but over LinkedIn groups, even though Facebook is a more private social media to begin with, but because the group function there is better, you find people even engaging in professional conversations on Facebook as opposed to doing it on LinkedIn.
I agree with you, totally agree. So with like this transition from just having an idea to now having a platform with like all these different channels where you walk from, what was the like step by step? How did you build this up from just having an embryo of a thought to actually doing something? Was the Facebook page the first step?
I think that the Facebook group was definitely one of the main steps to actually making this work, because even though we had a website where we were writing articles, we had a Facebook page where we were posting our articles and so on. The power of the groups is that you can actually engage in conversations, and also that it's not only us who are admins of it that can actually start conversations, but anyone in the group, if you chose to have those settings, can actually start talking and ask questions and so on. So, I mean, I think that it's important to remember that to actually create a Facebook group that's active, it doesn't happen overnight, because it really requires a lot of engagement and thought and time from the admins, because people want to be part of a group where they feel that there are other people that are active and that other people are actually sharing things and so on. So in the beginning, both me, Jasmine, and Christopher were very, very active in the group, and we took part in trying to share different stories and links that we found. We asked questions, we tried to share our own experience, and it took a while. I mean, in the beginning, of course, we were only like 50 people, and it takes a while before you actually start spreading and a group starts growing. But eventually, I mean, the people that were part of the group or that found the group, they started inviting other members. We have had a lot of members that have recommended our group in other groups and said that this is a great place to discuss remote work and digital nomads and the gig economy and things like that. So I think that one of the main things you need to think about if you as a company are thinking about starting a group is that it actually does take a lot of time. I mean, the plus side is that today Facebook actually prioritizes groups over pages, so it's easier to actually, like with the algorithms, to actually get your message across to the members that are part of the group. But then again, you can't really advertise in the same way to make sure that you really get this reach. And if you started doing too many sale promotions and so on, people would leave the group. So you can't have it as a core like idea of selling things, but it's rather about building this community and building a very strong sense of belonging among maybe a smaller group of your clients or whatever it might be. But I think that it's about more personal marketing, and if you actually get that going, you will have such a much better relationship with the clients and with the customers that are actually part of this group, as opposed to just having them as followers on your page. But then again, you need to have a purpose on why you're doing this, and the purpose can't be to just sell things. It must be to do something else. So for us, for instance, it's been to become this go-to place for people that want to discuss these questions. And in doing so, we become kind of like the experts on this in other parts of society and for other organizations and government organizations, like I was saying. But the group in itself, we never try to sell anything, and it's more about just creating that open conversation and getting people to share things and feel like they're belonging to a group that's actually trying to, well, in our case, do something and change the way people think about work, basically.
Would you say that the idea of the group or the idea of the community has shifted over time? You said that you wanted to become the go-to place for people to find knowledge and information on these topics, but have there been like a transition to what you've wanted from the beginning to where you're heading now?
I think that like the overall idea with the group to be this go-to place and to have these meaningful conversations and just inspire and help each other out, it's still central for why we exist.
Yeah.
But I do think that what we did not realize when we started this is that we would be getting attention from, for instance, other companies or politicians or trade unions or government agencies. We thought that it would mostly be about the individuals that wanted to come together and discuss this. So I think that the purpose is still the same. It's just that we now realize that as this group grows, we might actually also be able to somehow affect society in a positive way, because we can actually tell these stories and we can share this knowledge to make sure that different things in society might become more equipped for people wanting to work remotely or to have these more flexible hours or workspaces in that way. So purpose in itself is still the same, but the actual power of what it feels like we can do with it and what it means to have this group has definitely shifted, because it's grown much more than we could actually imagine that it would.
Amazing, amazing. So do you see anything that you should have done differently? Now, in hindsight, okay, it turned out good, but we could have done it a different way, or this didn't turn out the way we wanted at all. We should have gone a totally different way. Is there any mistakes that you made along the way that you want to share?
I mean, I think you learn things all the time. For instance, when you start to have a group that's actually active, you notice that a lot of different people want to get a piece of that community. So quite early on, we actually, for instance, chose that we as admins of the group get to decide what posts are actually published in the group. So our members can't today just publish things. It's more curated what we actually let through on the group. And the reason for that is that we had a lot of people just doing self-promotion. We had companies going in and trying to sell products or just posting links to their blogs and affiliate programs and so on. So we quite early on felt more of a responsibility to make sure that, okay, but if people are actually going to feel comfortable in this group and feel that it provides them with a value where they want to be active themselves, we need to spend more time actually curating the kind of content that comes out here. So we might not have had that many rules when we started it, but today you can actually go into the group and you can read rules about us not allowing selling, for instance, and people are very welcome to sharing who they are and their stories as digital nomads, but you can't put it out like more of a personal ad saying, this is me, this is my CV, come and hire me, because if we let all of that content through, it wouldn't become as relevant for people anymore to be a part of it. So realizing that has, of course, made it easier for us to create a group where people feel like they might want to engage more. And also, I think that in the beginning, it's not just in the beginning, it's still that we do spend a lot of time making sure that if people write things and if people have questions, we also do our utmost to actually try and answer those questions ourselves. Yeah. So me and Christopher and Jasmine are very active in the group, the three of us. But we also have the possibility, because our Facebook page is connected to our Facebook group, so we can go in and post things as our company page as well, if we wanted to. But we have come to realize that when we do that, it's not as personal, or people don't find it as personal. So posts that we post as our page or as our brand don't get the same kind of engagement as it does if me or Christopher or Jasmine writes it. So
very interesting. Yeah.
So I think that it's important also, if you're a company and you're looking to do this, that you're aware of the fact that maybe you as a person will become quite like central in it. It's not the same as posting on a Facebook page where you're kind of like secured behind a logo and a brand name, because you actually, in many cases, benefit a lot from being yourself when you post in the group, because people want to have a relationship to you in firsthand. And then they know that you are part of that brand, but it's more about feeling like they know these people. It's not about feeling like they know the brand and they don't know who has posted anything. So we have actually gotten a lot of comments from people that we've met, because that's also one of the things that we've been doing more and more frequently as the group has been growing, that we've had a lot of offline events as well, where we bring the community together to actually meet and discuss things and so on. And a lot of people have said that they feel like we personally really engage in who they are and their questions, and that it means a lot to them, because our group is again about making decisions about the way you work, and the way you work does affect the way you live a lot. So being there and being open to having that personal relationship to our group members has actually been quite, I think, a key factor behind why the group is active today and why it does keep on growing and why people recommend other people to join it. So those are some of the true learnings that we've come to get during these 2 years.
Yeah. So kind of like to sum up, what are the strategies that you would recommend then for a company, or big or small, that want to start their own group, their own community, their own tribe? What do you have, like 3 key like recommendations for them?
Well, the first one would be to actually find a true purpose. Why should people engage in this group? What is the value you can share with them? The value is not sharing discount coupons. It's rather about sharing your expertise as a company and becoming a go-to place for people to discuss a subject that engages you as a company, but that especially engages people in the community. So number one, find that true value. Number two would be to create some kind of exclusivity around it, that it shouldn't be that what you post in the group is exactly what you post in a newsletter and on the website and everywhere else. It should rather be that people that are part of the group feel that, okay, I get something unique from being part of this group. I really am part of the inner circle for this company. And by being part of the group, I get to engage in a whole different way. And doing that, I think creating that exclusivity is really what brings, or what builds stronger customers and clients, or maybe even brand ambassadors. The people, they start to like your brand on a personal level, which you wouldn't just get from a page, but rather from actually engaging in these one-to-one personal conversations with representatives from a company. And then I also think, well, like I said before, you really need to understand that it does take time to build these groups. It's not a one night fix that you start up a group and then everyone becomes part of it. It's about really like putting down in the time, realizing that it might take us 6 months or a year even to go somewhere with this, but to still believe in it and to understand that once you get that community going and once you get it active, it does provide a lot of value for you as a brand. So really taking the time to do it. And if you feel like you don't have that time and you don't have the time once you created it to keep it going, maybe a better idea should be to look at what other groups are out there on Facebook today that your clients might already be engaged in. And think of different ways to actually collaborate with other groups, because there are a lot of groups today that are really engaging, that have a lot of really great people in them that are in there for niche interests or niche areas of discussions, and they might be the perfect fit for your brand to actually be seen in. So in that case, to reach out to the admins of those groups and see if you can find some kind of collaboration. So the same way you might look at influencer marketing as a marketing strategy, I think that you can look at group marketing, where you as a brand go in and market yourself in other groups as a really great strategy to actually create real engagement and to reach a group that is already active.
Awesome, awesome. So this has been the first part of these two-part like interviews presentation. Could you share with the audience what you're going to talk about in your VIP section that they will find in the if they buy the all access pass?
If they see my VIP presentation, it will be more about like steps you can take to actually create these kind of groups and the learnings I've gotten from working with groups.
Yeah.
And also why, looking at statistics, it is actually a really great marketing strategy to start thinking of Facebook groups more as a go-to place to reach your target groups.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you, Emelie, so much for great value, both to me and the audience. And so if you want to know more about Facebook groups and how you can grow them and build your own Facebook groups to target your audience, your specific niche community or tribe or whatever you call it, click the button on this page to purchase the All Access Pass to get your lifetime access to all these videos from all these great speakers. You'll also get the extra videos from all of them, including some extra material to help you market or bring your marketing game up to speed and, well, ahead of all of the other people. So click the button, buy the All Access Pass, and you'll see more of Emelie inside the members area. And Emelie, thank you so much for being part of this Successful Marketing Summit. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mats, for inviting me to be part.
You're welcome.